Hi guys, so today we'll be doing the Edexcel GCSE Mathematics Paper 1, non-calculated paper. So this is going to be a walkthrough. I'm going to show you how to do the first 10 questions, as that's where I would stop today. And in another video, I would show you the rest of the questions, as that requires a higher level of thinking. So, without further ado, let's get on to the first question. So I've already highlighted bits and bobs of the first question, but we can see that the scatter graph shows the maximum temperature and the number of hours of sunshine on 14 British towns in one day. So maximum temperature is on the y-axis, whilst the number of hours of sunshine is on the x-axis. So our first question asks, one of the points is an outlier, write that in the coordinate of the point. So an outlier is simply a point that does not match with the existing points. It does not relate to anything. In this case, our outlier will be this point highlighted there. This point is not relevant to the positive correlation as seen here. Hence, this point will be our outlier. Thereby, this point will be, if we calculate, that will be 10 and that will be 19. So 10 will be on the x-axis, whilst 19, sorry about that, let me just write this again. 19 would be on the y-axis. Oof. There we go. And that will be our first question, in which we'll get an easy mark for that. So for all other points, write down the type of correlation. As we can see, all the points go upwards. If it's an upward sloping graph, this means that there's a positive correlation. It shows as the number of sunshine increases, the number of hours, the maximum temperature increases also, which also aligns with expectations, as that's often a given. So for all the other points, write down the type of correlation. In this sense, this would be a strong positive correlation. I'm going to write it down as SPC. However, in the exam, you have to write it down as positive correlation, as you need to show the examiner you understand it, because SPC can mean nearly anything. In this case, it just means strong positive correlation, because I'm trying to keep it short and simple and just get on with it. So part C. On the same day, the maximum temperature was 16.4 degrees. Estimate the number of hours of sunshine on town this day. So 16.4 degrees, we have to know how many units this graph actually goes up by in the y-axis. In this case, it's 0.2 increments. It goes up by 10.2, 10.4, 10.6, etc. However, before we do this question, we have to draw a line of best fit. Now, my line of best fit is not going to be perfect. However, it will make do. So when we draw this line of best fit, our maximum temperature is going to be 16.4, which is around, not there, one upwards, that point over there. So if we draw a line carefully across, I'm not trying to make any mistake, and then draw all the way down, that will give us a point of roughly 12.8 hours of sunshine, if I've done it correctly. So that will be our answer for this question, 12.8 hours. So you're wondering, okay, does it have to be accurate? No, it doesn't have to be accurate. It just has to be around a certain boundary. In this sense, I'm pretty sure it has to be between 12.5 and 13, as that's more of the acceptable boundary it should be at. However, any values ranging within those should be perfectly fine. If you have a ruler, it will be much more useful, as it will give you a more accurate answer and a response. However, you have to draw the line of best fit for these types of questions when measuring from the y-axis. So here, part D. A weatherman says that the temperature on higher days is when there's more sunshine. So, does the scatter graph support what the weatherman says? Give a reason for the answer. So, we can use the scatter graph and see that there's a strong positive correlation. So, this means that as the number of hours of sunshine increases, the maximum temperature increases also, which also supports the weatherman's claim. However, this is also invalidated by the outlier. However, the overall sense, or the overall scatter graph, simply shows that there's a strong positive correlation. So, the weatherman's claim is actually true, and this can be explained as due to the fact that as the number of hours of sunshine increases, the maximum temperature increases also, as shown on the scatter diagram. I'm not going to write this, however, I can just write a few notes. Strong positive correlation, SPC, as I said before, what that meant. SPC, that is horrible. Let me just write that again. SPC, strong positive correlation, and he is correct. That's all I'm going to write for that question, because you just have to write or form one sentence, 2 sentences actually, showing whether the claim is correct and the reason for the answer. It's a simple question. These are 3 marks essentially, which you should gain. So question 2, express 56 as a product of its prime factors. We have to know what a prime factor is. A prime factor is anything that is divisible by 1 and itself. Examples can be 2, 3, 5, 7, etc. All of these are prime numbers. However, we have to find 56 and express that. So multiples of 56. Examples can be 2 and 28. We got I don't know why the handwriting is like this, but I'm sure. 4 and 14. We got 8 and 7. So essentially, all of these are factors of 56. When you multiply them, you get 56 itself. However, it's asking for prime factors. None of these are prime factors except from 2 and 28. No, 28 is not a prime factor, however 2 is. So we want to express this as a product of its primes. So you can choose any of these multiples. To make it easier for you, I'll choose 8 and 7 as it's the easiest one to do. So 8 is not a prime factor, however 7 is. So we leave 7 as it is, so we don't touch 7. However, 8 is a multiple of 2, and 8 is a multiple of 2 3 times when you cube 2. Hence, the product of its primes would be 2 to the power of 3 multiplied by 7, and that will be your answer. You can also show that using 4 and 14. 4 is basically 2 squared, whilst 14 is 2 multiplied by 7. That's what 14 is, this bracket. And essentially 2 squared multiplied by 2 again will be giving you 2 cubed multiplied by 7, and that gives you that answer, which is also the same as 2 cubed multiplied by 7. Hence, that's how you express 56 as a product of its prime factors, and you get a 2 marks as well. So the next question asks us to work out 54.6 multiplied by 4.3. In this case, we have decimals. Decimals are a little bit tricky, however, they're easy to overcome. In this case, how I do it is that I forget about the decimals. So I do 546 multiplied by 43. So I'll do the table method, or the grid method, whatever you like to call it. And I just do normal multiplication. So you multiply 3 by 6, 3 by 4, 3 by 5, 4 by 6, 4 by 4, 4 by 5. So 3 multiplied by 6 is going to be 18. You got 1 remainder. I'll write the remainders in this area, it makes it much easier. 3 multiplied by 4 is 12, add 1 is 13. So we lost that remainder, but we also got another remainder. 3 multiplied by 5 is 15, add that 1 is 16. Now we have to add a 0 there, don't forget to add the 0 every single time. 4 multiplied by 6 is 24, 2 remainder. 4 multiplied by 4 is 16, add the 2 is 18, you got 1 remainder. And 4 multiplied by 5 is 20, and then you get 21. So now we add all of these up. So you got 8 plus 0 is 8, 4 plus 3 is 7, 8 plus 6 is 14, 1 remainder, 1 plus 1 is 2, add 1, 3, and 2. So this is going to be our answer when we multiply this. However, we got decimals, as it says. In this case, we have 1 decimal place and 2 decimal places. Essentially, it will be 2 decimal places from the left, and that will give us an answer of 234.78. You can verify this by dividing 234.78 by 43, or 546 divided by 243.78, but that will be much more longer. Essentially, when you look at this question, 50 multiplied by 4 when you round down is going to be around 200. And because we rounded down, the value is going to be less. So if we round up, it will be somewhere roughly around 234, and that's an easy way to verify. It's not always accurate, as you can sometimes make a little mistake. However, it gives you a benchmark of what answer you should get, and you can see whether or not you're severely wrong. Let's move on to question 4. So question 4 asks us for the area of a square A, B, C, and D, and it's 10 centimeters squared. So this whole square is 10 centimeters, and we have to show that x squared plus 6x is equal to 1. We already are given a little square in here. All sides of a square is equal. So 3 centimeters there is also equal to 3 centimeters here, and 3 centimeters here. So we can find that area of the square. This area will be 3 times 3, which is 9 centimeters squared. And because that is part of the area of A, B, C, and D, we can cancel out 10 from 9 to give us the remaining area that we have to calculate. So 10 minus minus 9 is equal to 1 centimeter squared. That's what we have left. And this is what we have left of this and that. So to make it easier, let's calculate this segment first. Let me just choose a different color to do this. Let's just choose yellow. So we want to calculate this segment over here. Is it working? Ooh, that's a bit messy. Let me just revert back to black. Let me go back to my pen. Oh, here it is. Okay, my bad. So we want to calculate this area over here, this little shaded region. So this shaded region is x, and on the top we can see that it's x on this side and 3 on this side. Remember that it's a rectangle, so 2 of these sides are the same. So point C and D is equal to it's a square. So A and B is equal to C and D. Hence, C and D is equal to x plus 3. And we already are given the height, which is x. You multiply that by x. And that gives you x squared plus 3x. And that's the value for only this segment, the yellowy orangey part. Now we have this part. We need to find this area, the green part. So to find the green part, we're already given the width, which is x, and we're already given the height, which is 3. So 3 multiplied by x is 3x. Now, if we scroll down, we are given 1 centimeter squared, so x squared plus 3x is equal to 1. It's equal to 1 because that's the amount we have left after finding this little shaded region over there. Hence, that gives us x squared plus 6x is equal to 1. And that is the answer we showed. So that's it for that one, and we get a full 3 marks. Now we move on to question 5. This is about a rectangular frame that is made from 5 straight pieces of metal. The weight of the metal is 1.5 kilos per meter. Work out the total weight of the metal in the frame. So in this question, we are finding out the total weight. We are not calculating any areas, it's just the total of every single piece of metal that is within the frame. To do so, we need to know our Pythagoras theorem. Recount that it's a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. This is the formula you always have to know and use. It will be helpful to write down the formula in your sheet, as this may potentially give you a mark if there's any sort of like working out mark in case you get it wrong, because it shows the examiner that you know what to do, but unfortunately you got it wrong. However, let's do this question. In this case, we have, let me just put my charger in. Okay, so in this case we have 12 and 5, I believe. 12 and 5. So in this case, let's say 12 is a squared. So 12 is a, and b is 5. It doesn't matter either way. You can choose. However, the hypotenuse would always be the c squared value, so never confuse that with anything else. So 12 squared is 144. 5 squared is 25. Add that together, that gives you 169. So we should know our roots by now. 169 rooted is equal to 13. And that's the value of this, 13 meters. Meters is important to put your units down, as units are always going to be important. Because this is a rectangular frame, 5 meters here is equal to 5 meters over here, and 12 meters over here is equal to 12 meters up there. So what does this mean? Essentially, we have 1.5 kilos per meter, and the total weight of metal within the frame. How many meters of frame do we actually have? So we have 5 twice, we have 12 also twice, and we have 13 once. This gives us a total of 47 meters worth of frame. And because 47 meters multiplied by 1.5, this will give us the total weight of metal within the frame. So we can use a mental maths or whatever to do this question. In this case, I already know the answer. It's 70.5 kilos, I believe. And that will give us the total weight of the metal in the frame, and that will give us 5 marks. Essentially, the only reason why I'm doing the first 10 questions is because the 10 questions is where you want to get your marks in. Your guaranteed marks in the first 10 questions. So that's where you want to get these correct. So now let's move on to question 6. Question 6 is that the equation of line L1 is y is equal to 3x minus 2, whilst L2 is equal to that. So we have to show that the lines are parallel. If two lines are parallel, this means that the gradient is the same. They don't intersect. If they intersect, they're perpendicular. So we already given line L as it is solved for y. So now we have to solve line 2 for y. To do so, let's write down the equation first. Is equal to 0. When we have to find out y on its own. So let's first plus 9x to both sides. Plus 9x. That will give us 3y. That's plus 9x and minus 5 on each side. Because we want to get rid of this little equation in the middle first. So that will give us 9x minus 5. But we're still not given y alone, as y is associated with the number 3. To get rid of that, we divide by 3 each side. So that will give us y is equal to 3x minus 5 over 3. Now we can see that our gradients are actually the same as each other, which means that they are parallel. Dot, dot, dot. This little thing over here, that simply means therefore. It's a mathematical term that you should more or less use most of the time. So now let's move on to question 7. So question 7 simply says that there's 10 boys and 20 girls in the class. The mean mark for the class is 60, whilst the mean mark for the girls is 54. Work out the mean mark for the boys. So we're firstly given the mean mark for the class. The formula for the mean, you also have to know, is the sum of all x values, I call that xi, over the number of values is equal to x bar. X bar represents the mean. This is what x bar is. It's just the mean. In this sense, we have the mean mark for the whole class. The mean mark for the whole class is 60. So we know that xi, we don't know the total mark of the class. However, we know that there's 30 students in the class itself, as 20 plus 10 is equal to 30, and the mean mark is equal to 60. Hence, 60 multiplied by 30 will give us the total mark for the entire class. That will be 1,800. Alright? So now we have to find the mean mark for the girls, as we're given that. We're given the mean mark for the girls, we need to find the total mark for the girls. That's what it was. So let's say the total mark is considered xy. The number of girls within the class is 20, and the mean mark is 54. Multiplying 54 by 20 will give us an xy value of 1080. So xy is equal to 1080. Let me just rub out all of this to make more space. Hopefully you don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we got the total value for girls. This is G, and this is the total for the class. Total class, G and total class. So we have to take away 1,800, so the total class marks, minus that to the girls' class marks, as we're finding out the mean mark for the boys. That will give us a total mark of 720. However, this is not our mean mark. This is the total mark that the boys actually achieved. So we divide that by 10. As that is the number of boys within the class, and the mean mark for the boys is 72. And that is the answer. We get 72, and that will give us a full 3 marks. Number 8. Write 7.97 multiplied by 10 to the minus 6 as an ordinary number. In this sense, there's nothing much I can teach you here. It's just 0.000000797. Yes, this is just the answer. It's just an easy mark, you should already know this. To make life more easier, if you're given a single number, anything between the values of 1 to 9, and you got a value like that, 10 to the power of negative 6, and you're going backwards, if it's 10 to the power of negative 6, you would have 5 zeros. If it's any value between 1 to 9. If it's 10 to the power of 9 is 7, you have 6 zeros. To the power of 9 is 8, you have 7 zeros, etc. Only if it falls within this range, 1 to 9. and you guys can identify everything else later. So now we have to work out this question, give it in standard form. So 2.52 multiplied by 10 to the 5, divide that by 4 multiplied by 10 to the minus 3. This is meant to be 5, not 3. Okay, so essentially what we do is that we forget about this and that, and you multiply 252, divide that by 4, and that will give you an answer of 63. Now you're given 63, you're given 2 decimal places or 1 decimal place from the right. That will give us a value of 6.3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 7. And that will be your answer for this one. It's a quick and easy 2 marks you can gather, and that's it for that. So now question 9. Jules buys a washing machine, 20% VAT is added to the price of the washing machine, and then she has to pay a total of £60. So what's the price with no VAT added? So we know that £600 is the value of 120% of the total value. This is because it's also added VAT, hence it's above the 100% already there. So to make life easier, we want to find for 100%, as we're trying to find the with no VAT, so the original price. So let's divide by 6. That will give us 100, and that will give us 20%. But this is only 20% of the value. We're trying to find 100%. To find 100%, we multiply by 5. So we multiply by 5 each side, 500, and 100%. So this will be the original value of the washing machine, 500, and that will give us 2 marks. Now we're finally on to the last question, question 10, where I'm going to be stopping at today, after I finish this question, of course. So show that this value can be written in the form of A, B, C, D, where A, B, C, and D are positive integers. So essentially, we can choose 2 brackets to expand and multiply else. What I mean by that is, let's say I want to expand x plus 1, x plus 2 first. When we expand the bracket, as you should already know, is x multiplied by x multiplied by 2, 1 multiplied by x, 1 multiplied by 2. Expanding the bracket will give us x squared plus 3x plus 2. I'm skipping the steps where it gives us 1 multiplied by x, it gives us x, and x multiplied by 2 gives us 2x, and 2x plus x gives us 3x. This is where I got the 3x from. And then you multiply that by x plus 3. When you multiply that by x plus 3, you do the whole entire thing again, cross multiplication, however, for all 3 values. So that will give us x cubed plus 3x squared plus another 3x squared plus 9x plus 2x plus 6. Simplify all of this, we get x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. So here A is equal to 1, B is equal to 6, C is equal to 11, and D is equal to 6. All of these are positive integers, and they do lie within the form of this. Hence, this will be the correct answer. They will be your answer, and you get the full 3 marks. So this will be what I'm going up to today. And in next time's video, I'll be going up from question 11, 12, 13, all the way up to, I'm pretty sure it was question 22, if I'm not wrong. 22, yeah, where this is going to be the hardest question of your paper. But this is where I'm going to get up to today. As I said before, from questions 1 to 10, you want to try and get it all correct. This is where you're trying to grab marks as much as possible, until you get to the point where there is going to be much harder questions that you may find difficult to complete. Hence, this gives you a little bit of leeway, you can say, if you complete all these questions correctly. But yeah, as you've seen there, it's pretty simple. Just keep on practicing these types of questions and you should be able to master it. It's pretty fine. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.